Hey guys, welcome back again to this continuing series I'm doing on the circle of fifths. In the first two sessions we looked at how to build it, how to start at the key of C with 0 sharps and go around the circle to the right, going up a fifth and adding the sharps that go with each key, and going back down a fifth on the left or up a fourth to look at the flats. This tells us what the keys are in the order of their ascending number of sharps or flats. So the key of G is 5 above C and it has 1 sharp. That's an F sharp. It's the note that comes right before the G in the scale. The next key, 5 above G, is D. It has that same F sharp, and then the note that comes right before the D in the scale, the C sharp. That happens to be a fifth above the F sharp. So not only are your keys going up a fifth at a time, C to G to D to A, but so are their sharps, F sharp to C sharp to G sharp. Notice that once we get to the C sharp, we're going to see that the order is the same. The key of C was followed by the key of G, was followed by the key of D. We have F sharp, then C sharp, followed by G sharp, followed by D sharp. Since we're going in fifths, that pattern has to duplicate itself over and over again. You can then read back down the circle to fill in any gaps of knowledge you had. It's like when you used to write a test and you'd see in a short answers you couldn't answer one question, but on the next page when they did multiple choices or matching, they gave away that answer and you could go back and fill in questions you didn't know before. The same thing happens here. Another thing I want to use the circle for is what I've talked about before. I actually prefer finding all this knowledge from my primary chord chart or something like that. And we can take that knowledge and apply it to the circle of fifths or find it in the circle of fifths. The circle also shows us how our scales are built. So it actually teaches us a whole lot of theory beyond just knowing that the key of G has an F sharp. As you know, one of my favorite things to do is talk about primary chords and quiz you on those. The primary chords are the 3 major chords in any key. They are the 1, the 4, and the 5 in the scale. So if we're in the key of A, we'd count from A. A is your first chord, A, B, C, D is the 4, and E is the 5. So A, D, and E are major chords in that key. The rest would be minor or even a diminished. So for instance, if C is the 1 chord, F is its 4, and G is its 5. Of course, I've started with C for the same reason that on the circle of fifths we start with C. It's a basic scale with no sharps or flats. So C is 1, C, D, E, F is 4, G is 5. Then what I always talk to you about is these related keys. We can start on the 5 and do a G as the 1. C is the 4, and then we add to that, and D is the 5. Then we can start on D. D, the 5, becomes a 1 here. The 4 becomes the 1, the G becomes a 4, and then we add to that the A. If this works for us, then we notice that if I went back this way, going down 5, I'd be going here, the 4 becomes the 1, the 4 becomes the 1, so F would go here as the key of F, C is the 5, and B flat is the 4. So you can see my primary chord chart does something very similar to what the circle of fifths does. I want to show you just another way here. If our 1 chord were C, our 4 chord would be F, and our 5 chord G. So there's the 1, 4, 5 in C. But C is also the 4 of G. So if I want a 1, 4, 5 in G, I could start on G and connect it to a C and a D. So G is 1 when C is 4 and D is 5. D is the 5th of G. But G is the 4th of D. So if I started on D, I'd say D is 1, G is 4, and A is 5. Over here, if F is 1, C is 5, and its 4 would be B flat. So you can see here what I've started to do is create the circle just by connecting each chord to its 4 and its 5. Let's stop and do that in a circle. Just like writing your math formulae in the back of your notebook to use during studying and then even in a test, you can recreate the circle of fifths just by memory and by the knowledge of building on fifths, and then use that to look at for all your theory. So let's look at it again. We start with C because, as always, it has 0 sharps and 0 flats. It's the natural key, and it's sort of ground zero in music theory. If we count up 5, C, D, E, F, G is the 5 of C. If we count up 5 from G, G, A, B, C, D is 5 of G. Count up from D, A is 5, E is the 5th after A, B is the fifth after E, F sharp is the 5 of B, and C sharp is the 5 of F. Notice if I go this way, C sharp is preceded by F sharp, is preceded by B, is preceded by E. Let's do this as a test. Therefore, C sharp is to F sharp as C is to what? F. We would remove the sharp. F sharp is to B as F is to B flat. As E is to E flat, as A is to A flat, D flat and C sharp are enharmonic equivalents. They're the same note, so we want them overlapping here. G flat is the equivalent of F sharp, and C flat the equivalent of B. So there's my circle created for you one more time. There we've gone through it before and we just said 0 sharps, 1 sharp, 2 sharp, and that's how we used it at first. And that's usually where a lot of people will stop. The one thing I love to see here though is every key is surrounded, if it's a 1 chord, by its 4 and its 5. In C, these are the primary chords, the 1, the 4, and the 5. Of course, I've mentioned about 1 billion times that you should memorize those. You should be able to pick out any key anytime, A flat, and tell me that A flat is the 1, D flat is the 4, E flat is the 5. In B, B is the 1, E is the 4, F sharp is the 5. You want that to be second nature to yourself. But as you're getting there, tools like this will help. So in the key of C, your primary chords, your major chords are C, F, G. In the key of G, they're G, C, D. In D, they're D, G, A. So right there you see your primary chords. I've really just reconstructed then with a circle my primary chord chart. I've done it with overlapping chords though. So this is beautiful to me. In the key of F, B flat is the 4, C is the 5. How do we know it's not just a B? There were many reasons. One is that F and B flat share a spot on the circle, just like F sharp, a fret higher than F, and B, a fret higher than B flat, share a spot on the circle. So this side becomes flat because it's in relation the same way this was, where we had sharps. So the key of C has no sharps. You can look at all your keys here. I could move to the secondary chords right now, but I'd like you to see something else too. Our scale is involved here. Once upon a time, when talking about pentatonic scales, I mentioned to you that the pentatonic scale is this little piece of the circle. Scales are built theoretically and mathematically on fifths. C and its most consonant neighbor note, the fifth, the G, are in a scale. G then is most consonant with C's and D's, D's with A's, A's with E's. So when you hear a C note as a fundamental, it's going to generate these harmonics that create a scale. When a C vibrates, you're going to hear another C in the octave. Then you're going to hear a G actually as a harmonic waveform of the C note. The next thing it will do is create an E note. But if you hit the G note in that scale, it's going to give you G's and D's. So as you build up going harmonically, you get C and G and D and A and E. Let's put them in order. C and G. G gives you a D. We'll scoot it back into the octave. D gives you a fifth. It's A. A gives you an E, and we'll scoot it back. So right there, these 5 notes are the pentatonic scale on C. Starting on G, these 5 notes are the pentatonic scale on G. D, A, E, B, and F sharp, the 1, the 2, the 3, the 5, and the 6 would be the pentatonic scale on D. So your pentatonic scale is buried within this. So is your diatonic scale though. We abandon this in the pentatonic scale because in the harmonic overtones we get some fudge on the 7th note from C and the 4th note. As those waveforms deteriorate and decay, they create something of a flatted B and a sharped F, then a B that's a little raised, and then an F that's a little flat. The F and B, the 4th and 7th, the way they're generated out of the harmonics, come out a little fudgy, and that's why we have different kinds of scales. We have Lydians with sharp 4s, Mixolydians with flat 7s, and that's why they're eliminated from the pentatonic, because they're the fudgy ones. They're also a half step away, and this is why they're fudgy, from the other notes, which causes dissonance. but we can put them back in. So the fifth of E is a B. That's this guy, the seventh in the key of C. B would give us an F sharp, but we're getting miles and miles down the road from C and to a note that isn't going to fit in with the rest of the harmonics. If you throw the F sharp in there, then it's going to generate a C sharp and a G sharp. Suddenly we're out of key. So what they did was they said, let's go a fifth over here. So we've been building up fifths, C to G to D to A to E to B, and we find out that we could actually have a fifth on the other side of C, right there, the 4 chord. So if you pick your key note, go one back to the F, the 4 chord, and grab all of those 7 notes, we've actually got the key of C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C again. That will work obviously for every key. If I want to know what are the notes in the key of E flat, let's make that a 1. We'll reach back once for the 4 chord, and then just go up until we've got a total of 7 notes. So we've got the 5, the 2, the 6 in the key of E flat, the 3 in the key of E flat, and the 7. So the key of E flat has E flat, D, F, G, A flat, B flat, C. How about the key of A? You've got your 1 and your 4. We're going to grab this note behind it every time. Then it's 5, it's 2, it's 6, it's 3, and it's 7. Oops, there can be no A flat in the key of A. What do you call it? Aha, it's also G sharp. So there, the key of A has 3 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp, in order. Lastly, I guess what I should remind you is in this you're also going to see then your majors and your minors. Let's return to C, where C is 1 and F is 4 and G is 5. Those are your primary chords, those are your majors. The next 3 are your minors. You'll have the relative minor A minor, the 2 the D minor, and the 3 the E minor. So starting on your root, 3 majors, 3 minors, and that 7th note, what was that one? Starts with a D, note not dominant, right, diminished. The 7th is diminished. Why is that? Because that chord would want an F sharp with it, but we've eliminated that. We've cut the scale off and we're using Fs. A B chord with an F is a diminished chord, not a minor or anything else. So that's something awesome that you can get out of the circle of fifths. You can see your pentatonic scale, your primary chords, and your diatonic scale built in there. You can also see where your secondary chords are, your minors and your diminished. I think I'll follow up a little bit more on that one more time, but for me that's an awesome thing to know from it. If you've practiced writing it, just going C, count up to G, count up to D, and get it on paper, then looking at it, you can derive all this information from it. As I've said, this is stuff you want internalized at some point, but before it's internalized, it has to be external. You have to see it and write it and create it. Always write it. I keep repeating that, but I'll repeat it again. Copy these things out over and over and over. Recreate them all the time. If you don't understand it at first, that's okay. Make sure at least the road marks, the posts are grounded. You want it stuck in your head so your brain has something to hang information on later on. So I'm going to leave it at that, guys. I don't know how long we've gone, but it's starting to run on probably. So let's move on from there and see if that helps you. Bye for now.